Welcome ladies and gents, Chris Andre here. Let's talk boxing. We are going to discuss, drum roll please, KSI versus Tommy Fury. Oh yes we are, because I put out a poll on Twitter asking people, shall I do a technical breakdown? It was a 50-50 split. Some of them were like, no fool, maintain your dignity. Other people were saying, just do it Chris. Beats was out there saying, do it Chris. Shout out to Beats. Beats has spoken, I've got to do it, right? So let's talk about it. Now, when I did the technical breakdown video for Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury, I was quite bullish on the fact that I felt Tommy Fury would win the fight. A lot of people were uncertain because there was somewhat of an unknown quantity involved. But for me, when I was looking at certain technical limitations of Jake Paul, I realized that they weren't going to marry up very well against the strength of Tommy Fury at all. And indeed, the fight played out exactly as I expected it to play out from a technical perspective. Well, with this particular fight, things are a little bit different. Because although Tommy Fury is certainly the more technically gifted fighter, there's also some weaknesses that he's got which actually marry up to certain strengths that KSI has got. And if Tommy Fury's not careful and he doesn't get the right game plan, he could end up running into something that causes him a real problem. So let's talk about how this fight will play out, in my opinion, how it can play out, and what each guy needs to do in order to maximize their keys to victory. You know, when it comes to trying to train someone to become a technical fighter, often they will regress before they improve in terms of their fighting ability. And this seems counterintuitive to a lot of people. They don't understand it. But let me try and explain it to you with an analogy. Imagine you've got a guy called Mr. X and he's a very good athlete. And if you were going to put him in a fight, he would be very aggressive. He would throw these windmilling haymakers and he just causes mayhem and chaos. And I was to clone Mr. X and I get the exact copy of him. And this man is now called Mr. Y. Well, I'm going to take Mr. Y and I'm going to start to train him, teach him how to fight. Initially, he's going to learn how to hold his hands in a guard, how he should jab, how he should move forwards, backwards, left and right, how he should essentially set up the construct of what it is that he wants to do, the base, the foundation. After 2 or 3 months, he's still learning. Now, if you've ever seen anybody that's trying to learn to dance and they've got 2 left feet and they're trying to learn specific steps, maybe they're doing an Irish dance or the tango or something that has specific steps, initially, you'll see them, they're holding their partner and they're looking down at their feet, they're stiff, they take a step and they're thinking, is that the right step? No, hold on a sec. And they don't look right. They're not feeling the rhythm of the music. They're overthinking. They're trying to learn the technical aspect of the dance before they just find it natural to sway to the music in a natural way. Well, in some ways, the same thing happens with a technical fighter. While Mr. Y is going to sit there thinking, right, I'm going to be a thinking fighter. I'm going to think about how I'm going to shoot my jab. How am I going to move when he throws that hand? What step should I do? Whereas Mr. X is just going to say, you know what, I'm going to run across the ring and start throwing my hands as hard as I can, as fast as I can. And he might end up catching Mr. Y and knocking him out. And those 3 months of boxing training that Mr. Y did made him overthink and cost him the fight. But if Mr. Y continues at it, he will bypass that. He will pass that threshold. And then things start to become second nature. Then when he starts to hear the music, so to speak, he will start to dance without having to think about the steps. It will come naturally to him. And so the question is, at what point do you reach that level where your technical execution becomes second nature? To be a masterful technical fighter, it is very, very difficult. Take Floyd Mayweather. You think it's easy for somebody to sit there with their lead hand low, hiding behind the shoulder, rolling with a shot, changing the levels, have Philly shell, shoulder rolls and all of that? If you try and do a Floyd Mayweather type of approach and you've been boxing even for 2 years and you try to take that to British level in the UK, you're going to get knocked out. You have to get to a certain point, a certain height of expertise to be able to bring about these really difficult technical executions. Well, Tommy Fury is a guy who is a technical boxer, but he still makes certain errors. The question is, at what point of the trajectory of his journey is he? Is he beyond the point where a very crude guy like KSI is going to jump on him and exploit the errors that he makes? Let's talk a little bit about KSI. He's a very good athlete. He's very fast. And he'll come out and he'll bounce. And as he's bouncing, he'll raid. He's all the way outside and he jumps in. He raids you. He rushes you. And he'll throw a lead right hand. And it tends to be either a big wide looping right hand with a bit of a curl on it, or if you look at the Fournier fight, he would be dipping his head down towards his own left foot. And as he's dipping, he's throwing the right hand, but he's shortening it. So rather than coming out and throwing a big wide haymaker, he's shortening the right hand. And by coming over the top and shortening the trajectory of it, it creates a different pathway for that shot when it comes to you avoiding it. In other words, if it's going to come wide around here, I can literally throw an arm up in the air and it will catch me on the arm. I can roll with the shot and it's going to basically have nothing on it. If it does land on me, it might go behind my head, or if it comes with me, I'm going to travel with it. I can come under it. When it's a more narrow trajectory, The way I avoid becomes different. I either have to pull back, I have to get right close so that it goes over my shoulder. What I can't do is sit there and say, let me just roll with it, because it will come straight through that towards the center line. So by switching the trajectory of that right hand, it becomes a little bit tricky, particularly because he's so fast. Now, in addition to being very fast, he's also ultra aggressive. And that combines to create the atmosphere of mayhem. And mayhem forces people to make errors. It forces people to stop thinking. Have you ever seen those disaster movies, those apocalyptic movies? All of a sudden there's this meteor shower and you got these little meteors the size of basketballs falling down, blowing everything up around people, and they're running wildly and they don't know what they're doing. They've lost their minds. And you look to their left and there's like a metro system, right? An underground station. You're thinking, dude, run under there. That'll keep you safe. Go like 100 feet underground or something. There's a cave over there. Run into the cave. Instead, they run straight past the metro system, straight past the cave. They're just running in a straight line down the main road until a meteor comes and just wipes them out, because they're not thinking clearly. There's a moment there that's a state of panic. The meteors are flying around you. And that is what kind of happens with KSI, because he will also throw that right hand when he's way too much out of range and he falls way short. And as he falls short and he's loaded up because he's dipped towards that left foot, he'll come up with a big left hook as well. He starts throwing at mid-range, flailing arms, might catch you with an elbow the way he caught Fournier and knocked him out. That should have been a no contest. He might catch you on the back of the head with a big wide shot because his arm's going to cup around the back of your head and come and land behind the ear like he did to Logan Paul. And that mayhem causes problems, and it can make somebody gun shy, intimidated, tentative. Now, the people that he's fought are of such a low level, it's difficult to say, well, this is how a professional fighter would react, right? These guys, people like Swarms, Pineda, these guys have never put on a pair of boxing gloves. You could see it. Swarms in particular was turning around and running away. It was woeful. The guy that tried to fight a proper way against him, other than Logan Paul, was FaZe Temper, is that his name? FaZe Temper, something like that. Bear with me, kids, I'm an old man, what do you want from me? FaZe Temper, or whatever his name was. He actually tried to hold his feet, be a little bit technical, out of southpaw stance. He was picking his shots, landed a couple of nice backhands on KSI, but there was a gap athletically speaking, and it goes back to what we were saying before about when you're overthinking and you've yet to master the technical aspects, you're going to make an error. So when it became apparent that KSI was going to lead with this big right hand and come over the top with another left hand, what did FaZe Temper do? He made the error of staying tall in the center line. As a target, he did not move. He didn't try to change the level. He didn't try to get closer to smother. He didn't try to step back to create some distance. He didn't try to move laterally. He didn't try to even react by putting his hands up and just, grabbing the back of his head. That would have created a shield around his head. That alone would have been enough to protect him in that moment. He didn't. He froze. And that one little error got him knocked out. But the concept of what he was trying to do and pick at the errors of KSI was correct. KSI will lose positioning when he's throwing punches. He will get off balance. And in between his own punches, he's there to be capitalized on. But now we go back to the question of whether Tommy Fury is good enough. Has he reached that point of technical execution where he's going to look at an ultra aggressive guy that will cause mayhem and carry some power and does it all at high speed and aggressively? Is he at that level, Tommy Fury, where he's going to be able to look at that and say, I'm going to dominate this guy? Well, some of the things Tommy Fury does are really good. He's got some nice upper body movement. He's got that nice herky-jerky style. He actually implements a little bit of upper body movement when he's doing simple, subtle things like going for a walk. And that can actually change the looks that you're offering an opponent. In other words, there's your target, right? I'm your target. I'm in front of you. You're a raiding fighter. You're all the way on the outside. I can't reach you. You can't reach me. When you're going to come at me and you want to raid like KSI does, you are launching towards that target. Like a missile, boom, you're going forward, you're launching into it. Well, if I move as a target and I'm constantly moving, you're tentative. Do I launch in? What if I launch in a linear line and I fall short? He's going to counter me. So it makes you think twice. And this actually worked with Jake Paul. He's got an orthodox stance. He's got his lead foot here. He's got his right foot back. He wants to take a step towards the left. As he moves to the left, he'll drop that lead shoulder somewhat and he'll almost lean on that left foot. And then when that right foot comes back around, because he doesn't want to bring it beyond the lead foot, but when he just wants to have a little bit more of a bladed stance, he wants to be less square on essentially, as he's turning, as he's moving towards there. As he waits on his lead foot, he'll then bring it back onto his right. So he's literally just shifting the weight and giving you different looks, changing the little heights just slightly. And that alone makes you think, do I go? Do I not go? Now that happened to Jake Paul, him questioning himself, a little bit tentative at times because he's a thinking fighter and he's trying to read what's going on in the ring. He's trying to find the patterns. KSI is not a thinking fighter. He's instinctive. He's thinking, I don't care what you're doing. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to rush in on you. If you throw a feint and I don't bite on the feint, well, I'm going to come straight to you. If you try to time me and counter me, you better land. Otherwise, I'm going to end up coming inside and causing mayhem. So he wants to be reckless to create chaos. Now, if you're a very composed fighter with good understanding of distance and good timing, you can punish him for taking risks like that. You can start lighting him up. And by lighting a guy up like that, that's when you start to place seeds of doubt in his mind. It's not because of the technical elements such as the feints and the upper body movement where he's thinking, can I get to the target or not? Because he's not a thinking fighter like that. But if you've hurt him, you've buzzed him, now he's thinking, oh man, do I really want to eat another shot like that and potentially get knocked out? I'm going to be a bit more careful about how I enter. Now, what he doesn't realize is that you've sold him that idea. You wanted to give him that idea to bite on, and now he's bitten on it. Now, by being tentative, he's decreased his chances of actually winning the fight, but he's also decreased the chances of getting knocked out. And that is the silent agreement he's made in the back of his mind, which actually harms him. But that requires very good technical execution. Can Tommy Fury do that? Well, sometimes he'll do that and he'll do it very, very well. One area where I think he's very good with understanding distance control is when he turns defense into attack, when a fighter falls out of position. You saw it with Jake Paul, you saw it with Anthony Taylor. If they throw a punch and they've overreached and they've fallen short, he will follow them out and he'll throw a flurry of punches. And he can look aggressive and these bursts look really good. And those are good moments for Tommy. There are some errors that he makes though, and these are the ones that I was talking about that could potentially marry up to some of the strengths of KSI. When an opponent will change the level in front of him, he doesn't really be defensively responsible in that moment. One of the things he's very, very susceptible to is an up jab from a crouched position. Jake Paul would come low, and from that low position, go and look at round 3 of their fight, he'll shoot a jab in an upwards trajectory. And Tommy's standing quite tall, and the jab will literally come from here and just land on his chin and snap his head back. Now that could potentially freeze a guy. And if KSI is thinking a little bit more instead of just trying to throw a big winging right hand from outside too far out, and he actually gets low and shoots an up jab, he could freeze Tommy Fury and come over the top of the right hand, following it instantly after that. In addition to that, when someone does change the level in front of Tommy Fury, he will often seek to counter it with aggression. And that aggression might mean that he makes a poor shot selection, in my opinion. Bear in mind, he's got quite long arms. And what he tends to do is shoot this little sweeping left hook, which almost comes where the hip is. So he's trying to target your head when you're quite low, but he stands quite tall in the pocket. He'll even do it when his back's up against the ropes, and he'll keep his right hand up by his right temple, so he's protecting himself from that side. But as he throws that left hook, the left side of his face is completely open. So if I'm KSI and I'm dipped in front of him and he's tried to throw a left hook towards my head and I've thrown an over the top right hand, that little sweeping left hook might not have much on it. My over the top right hand is going to have a lot more torque on it. I'll exchange that. You don't want to be in a position where you're getting caught with that, particularly when your back's up against the ropes. The other thing that Tommy does, he's got really long arms and he can use them very effectively to keep guys off balance, some nice jabs. But a great jab is a varied jab. A guy like Tyson Fury, for instance, will flick the jab. He'll almost throw it like a backhand. Muhammad Ali used to do this sometimes as well. And this is just a method to engage the opponent. It's to affect your eyesight. It's to hit your guard. And while he's affecting your eyesight, he'll change the angle. He'll be stepping to his own left to line up the backhand. He'll throw it with a flick and then a left hook around the guard. Then he'll come with a right hand down the pipe. By touching you in various places in the guard, you're thinking a shot's coming one way, so you react to create an opening elsewhere. You've got other guys that will use quite a consistent jab where they're not committing to it, and they'll vary it up in terms of the speed and the depth of it in order to score points. So it's literally just he'll shoot it and then he'll follow through with it, and he's trying to score points. You've got another type of jab where it's to find the range. You want to know how far somebody is, so you're using it literally as a stabilizing tool to set up a power shot. You've also got a jab for distance control. You're going to go upstairs, downstairs. If he's a guy that likes to put his weight onto that lead foot to launch a shot, as he steps that lead foot onto the floor, you might shoot that jab into his chest. It affects his construct, it affects his balance, it stops him stepping in. You can get low and shoot an up jab, which can affect his construct. You can land it on the top of his skull if he wants to come in, the top of the forehead, and that will snap his head back, and that will affect his ability to come forward. By landing it on the chin, you're looking to hurt him essentially, or to cause some sort of more of a painful shot. That's where your power jab might come in, and you might really want to step into it. Tommy Fury will often step in with the power jab far too often. Now, what's the problem with that? Because he's got these really long levers, when you're stepping in, you're closing the range. So imagine, let me use this glass, right? That's your head. That's the opponent's head. If I'm here and I'm at range and I'm just touching him here and I know he can't reach me, that's okay. But if I want to punch through the target, I'm closing the range. So if he slips as I throw the shot and he's come inside, now I'm in range. And far too often against Jake Paul, when Tommy Fury would step into the jab, he'd fall short. And imagine Tommy Fury's going to throw that jab and KSI slips inside. And by slipping inside, he throws a right hand over the top of that jab. That's where the right hand can come into play potentially. So if I'm KSI and I'm in his corner, I'm telling him to work on a couple of things. Get your up jab going when you're entering the pocket to freeze him up to launch your right hand. Or alternatively, have your feet narrower and be ready for him. Because when he wants to step in with that jab, slip inside and throw the over the top right hand and follow up immediately with that left hand. If you can force him back onto the ropes, and again, you're going to get low, he's going to look for that short little left hook. From there, again, you're going to set up your over-the-top hand. There's different areas, in other words, where I would try and set up the right hand for KSI. That's how I would approach it. The right hand and the left hook. How can I go about setting them up? Because he's not going to outbox Tommy Fury. If I'm in Tommy Fury's corner, I'm going to say to him, you're the vastly superior technical fighter. I don't want you taking stupid risks early on. If he gets down low, affect his construct. Put your hand on the side of his head. Use it to frame him, your forearm across the side of his head, and then chop down with the right hand. Step around him if you have to. As you're using that framing shot, use the uppercut. We know that he dips into the uppercut. The Logan Paul uppercut, in my opinion, was a legal shot. Not too dissimilar to Anthony Joshua's uppercut against Vladimir Klitschko. He held it a little bit longer over the top of the head than AJ did to Vlad, but not every referee would have pulled that up. Most referees, I reckon, would have let that knockdown count. When he gets down low, stabilize him, rip the uppercut. Use the long arm, a stiff arm defense to cut off the trajectory to the right hand. If he is going to throw that right hand and you are going to roll with it as you throw up that stiff arm defense, when you come back up, bring up your right hand to grab the other side of your head, because he tends to go with patterns, right, left, and they're wide shots. So cover up from those areas, make him fall short, punish him from there by following him out with flurries of shots. If he does come low in front of you, either affect his construct or protect your head, step out, pivot out, and don't back out in straight lines because he enters linearly. Get out from a lateral position and make him reset. And if Tommy Fury does all those things, he can win the fight. A caveat to everything that I'm saying here. We've not seen KSI fight anybody of note. This purported power, how do we even know it's real? What, because he's knocking out Swarms and Pineda and Fournier with an elbow, and he might be landing on Tommy Fury, who seems like the bigger man, and it will have no effect. And if that's the case and he can't hurt Tommy Fury, he's going to get battered, in my opinion. So who do I think is going to win the fight? You have to go Tommy Fury. But with the errors that he makes, there's one or two intriguing moments there, which I think within the first round or two, we'll know whether they can play out and cause a problem for Fury. But my opinion is that Tommy Fury should win the fight. I think that KSI is such an aggressive guy, he'll end up gassing after 3 or 4 rounds. He'll either land something big and have real success, or I think Tommy will start to put it on him and take him out between rounds 5 and 6. I think it's a 6-round fight. Let me know what you think, ladies and gents. Please don't forget to hit a stiff jab on the like button, a right cross on that subscribe button, and an uppercut on the notifications button. Thanks for watching. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.